You ever wonder what actually makes an avoidant person stop avoiding? Like, seriously, what finally makes them slam on the brakes? Turn around and say, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to commit. I'm ready to show up. Because let's be real here. If you've ever been in a relationship with someone who's avoidant, you know exactly how exhausting it is. One day, they're texting you nonstop. They're making plans. They're all in. And then, bam, they disappear. Radio silence. They shut down. They pull away. They ghost you. And you're left sitting there staring at your phone, thinking, what the hell just happened? And I know you've done this. I've done it too. You start replaying every little thing you said. Did I text too much? Was I too needy? Did I say something stupid? Did I push too hard? Suddenly you're Googling attachment styles at 2:00 in the morning, trying to crack some code that will finally explain why this person you care about keeps vanishing on you. Here's the brutal truth, and this is going to sting a little. It's not about you. You cannot fix an avoidant person. You can't love them enough. You can't convince them. You can't text them the perfect words that suddenly make them wake up and commit. They change only when they decide to change. And I know that is so hard to hear, because if you're like me, you've probably thought, maybe I'll be the exception. Maybe I'll be the one that finally gets through to them. I hate to break it to you, but that is not how this works. But here's the part I want you to really lean in and listen to. Avoidants do change. I've seen it happen. I've met people who went from being completely shut down and emotionally unavailable to becoming incredible partners, even amazing parents and spouses. So the question isn't if they can change. The real question is what finally makes them stop avoiding. That's what we're unpacking today. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this, because you deserve the truth. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what makes an avoidant finally step up. And more importantly, you're going to have absolute clarity on what you can and cannot do in these relationships. So let's get into it, okay? So before we dive into the stories, let's just take a second and set the stage here. Because if you've ever been with someone avoidant, or maybe you've been the avoidant yourself, you know exactly how this plays out. Here's the simplest way I can describe avoidant attachment. It's like dating someone who has one foot in the relationship and one foot always pointed toward the door. They love the thrill of connection. But the second things start to feel too close, too real, too intimate, they panic. And instead of leaning in, they pull away. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of that hot and cold behavior, oh my God, it messes with your head. One day you're cuddling on the couch, laughing, feeling so connected, and you're thinking, this could be it. This could actually work. And then, just as quickly, they slam the wall down. They stop calling. They stop texting. They suddenly need space. And you're left wondering, did I imagine all of that? Was I crazy? Here's the cruel part. That inconsistency, it hooks you even harder, because your brain starts chasing the high of those good days. You remember the way it felt when they were showing up. And so you hang on, hoping if you just love them enough, if you just say the right thing, if you're just patient, maybe they'll come around. I get it. I've been there. I've stared at the phone. I've overanalyzed the texts. I've blamed myself for someone else's inability to commit. And let me tell you, there is nothing lonelier than being in a relationship with someone who's half in and half out. But listen carefully to what I'm about to say. because this is one of the hardest truths you'll ever hear about avoidance. You cannot love them into security. You cannot beg them into commitment. You cannot sacrifice yourself into becoming the person who finally fixes them. So if you can't change them, what actually does? What makes someone who has spent their whole life running from intimacy finally stop, turn around, and face themselves? That's the million-dollar question, right? And that's exactly what we're about to unpack. I've had some raw, unfiltered conversations with 3 people. I personally know 3 people who were once so avoidant, it made me want to scream. And they told me exactly what finally cracked them open. And let me just say, what they shared shocked me. All right, let me tell you about the first person. I've actually known this guy since high school. And back then, oh my God, he was the ultimate player. You know, the type, right? Charming, funny, that cheeky smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room, even though he was probably texting 3 other girls at the same time. Every girl wanted him, and he knew it. He was the life of every party. He'd flirt with you, then with your best friend, and somehow convince you both that it was harmless. Nobody trusted him. Not the girls he dated, not their friends, not even his own guy, friends. Because deep down, everyone knew this man was trouble. And honestly, we all thought this guy is never, ever going to settle down. He was addicted to the chase. He thrived on the attention. He could not be pinned down. Fast forward 10 years. Guess what? He's married. He's got kids. And not only is he married, but he is a phenomenal husband and one of the most loving dads I have ever seen. Completely transformed. And I'll be real with you, my jaw was on the floor. Because if this guy could change, anyone could. So a little while back, I sat down with him and I straight up asked, what happened? What made you change? You dated dozens of women before. You played the field like it was your job. Why her? Why now? At first, he laughed and said, my wife. And I thought, okay, cute answer. But seriously, what was the real story? What was so different this time? And that's when he told me something that stopped me in my tracks. He said, she didn't chase me. She didn't play the game. She knew exactly who I was, and she wasn't impressed. Let me repeat that she wasn't impressed. See, every other woman before her had forgiven him, bent over backward for him, put up with the hot and cold. And that meant he never had to change. His behavior worked for him. He got to be reckless, unreliable, and selfish, and still have people lining up for a chance, but not her. She held her boundaries like steel. She told him no. She rejected him multiple times. And she didn't budge. And he admitted to me, for the first time in my life, I had to actually earn someone. I had to prove myself. I had to grow up, because if I didn't, I was going to lose her forever. That right there, that was the first turning point. And then came the second. He became a dad. And if you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm about to say. There's something about holding that tiny baby in your arms that just slaps you awake. For him, it was like a lightning bolt. He realized, I cannot be the same man I was before. I've got to show up. I've got to be responsible. I've got to love in a way I never have before. It was this 1-2 punch, meeting someone who refused to enable his crap, becoming a father, and realizing what real commitment feels like. That combination forced him to look in the mirror and choose. And here's the kicker, he told me, flat out, if she had chased me like everyone else did, I never would have changed. Do you hear that? It wasn't her unconditional love that changed him. It wasn't her sacrificing herself to fix him. It was her refusal to play the game. And today, years later, their marriage is rock solid. His kids adore him, and he is nothing, absolutely nothing, like that reckless player I knew in high school. So what's the lesson in his story? Simple but powerful. You cannot fix an avoidant by chasing them. All you do is reinforce their behavior. The only way they're forced to grow is when you stop lowering your standards. When you stop accepting crumbs. When you hold your ground and say, nope, not playing this game anymore. Because when you do, one of two things happens. They either step up or they step out. And either way, you win. Now, the second story I want to share with you, this one breaks my heart the most. Because unlike the first guy who got lucky enough to meet someone strong enough to force him to grow, this man didn't realize what he had until it was gone. Here's the deal. For most of his life, he admitted he never really took relationships seriously. He was always half in, half out. He loved the attention, loved the excitement. But the second things got too close, he'd sabotage. He'd disappear for weeks at a time, cheat, make excuses, then slide back in just enough to keep the woman hooked. You know the pattern, right? Hot and cold, pulling you close 1 minute, pushing you away the next. Enough connection to keep you hoping, enough distance to drive you absolutely insane. But then it happened. He met this one woman, and she was different. This wasn't just attraction or infatuation. She saw him. She believed in him. She gave him her whole heart. And for a while, he let her in. But deep down, he didn't believe he was good enough for real love. So what did he do? The same thing he always did. He sabotaged. He took her for granted. He thought, she'll never leave. Nobody ever has. Until one day she did. She hit her breaking point. She looked him straight in the eye and said, I'm done. No more chances. You don't get me back. And at first he told me he didn't even care. Can you believe that he actually felt relief? He thought, good, I'm free again. No pressure, no expectations. But here's the thing about avoidance. They don't always feel the loss right away. At first, it feels like freedom. But then weeks pass, months pass, and the silence starts getting louder. That's exactly what happened to him. Slowly, it hit him. She wasn't coming back. That door was shut. And for the first time in his life, he had to face the reality that he had lost someone who truly loved him. And let me tell you, he never got over it. He told me, I think about her all the time. She's the one that got away. And that regret, it haunted him. But here's where it gets powerful. That regret became his wake-up call. Not overnight, not instantly, but over the years, as he went through failed relationship after failed relationship, he kept comparing every woman to her. And he finally realized I had something real, and I destroyed it. That pain pushed him to do the thing he had avoided his entire life. Look in the mirror. He finally went to therapy. He finally started asking the hard questions. Why do I keep running? Why do I sabotage every good thing that comes into my life? And little by little, he started unpacking it, his fear of intimacy, his belief that he wasn't worthy of love, the armor he had been carrying around for decades. Now, here's the heartbreaking part. He never got her back. By the time he finally changed, she had moved on. She found someone who could love her the way she deserved. But because of the loss, because of that heartbreak, he eventually became a better man. And today, he's in a new relationship. And this time he's showing up. He's committed. He's not taking her for granted. But it took losing the one for him to get there. So what's the lesson here? Let me be really clear. Her leaving him didn't fix him. It forced him to finally face himself. And that's the part you need to hear if you are bending over backwards right now, trying to love an avoidant into changing. You are actually preventing the very wake-up call they might need. Because as long as you tolerate the behavior, as long as you keep taking them back, they don't have to change. But when you draw that line in the sand, when you say, no more, I deserve better, that's when the possibility for change exists. Not because you rescued them, but because you refuse to enable them anymore. And will every avoidant rise to the occasion? No. Some won't. Some will just keep running forever. But some, like this guy, will look back years later and realize, I lost someone amazing, and I never want to make that mistake again. For him, regret became the most important teacher of his life. The third story I want to share with you is about someone very close to me, one of my best friends. And let me tell you, I adore her. She is hilarious, brilliant, one of the most fun people I know. But when it came to love, oh my God, she was a disaster. She was, without question, the most avoidant person I had ever met. And I don't say that lightly. You know how most people, when they fall in love, they lean in, they want more closeness, more connection. Not her. The second someone got too close, she freaked out. She'd make jokes like, ugh, love is gross. If I told her I loved her as a friend, she'd roll her eyes and go, yeah, I know. That's how allergic she was to intimacy. And in her romantic relationships, it was always the same pattern. She'd meet someone, get obsessed for a little while. Then as soon as things got serious, she'd bolt. It was this constant push-pull game reel, someone in, then slam the brakes the second it felt real. Watching her was exhausting. Honestly, it broke my heart because I knew underneath all that avoidance was someone who just wanted love. She just didn't know how to handle it. Now, here's where her story takes a turn. Unlike the first guy, whose wake-up call came from meeting his match, or the second guy, who had to lose the one, her wake-up call came from something entirely different, her own body. She started experiencing crippling anxiety. And I'm not talking about feeling stressed here and there. I mean full-blown panic attacks, sleepless nights, chest so tight she thought she was having a heart attack. She couldn't escape it. At first, she tried to laugh it off, like she always did. She'd say, oh, I'm just stressed. He'll get over it. But it got worse. And eventually, she couldn't ignore it anymore. Her body was screaming at her, you can't keep running from this. So she finally went to therapy, and that's where everything started to crack open. Because underneath all that anxiety, there was grief, there was guilt, there was shame, there were years of emotions she had been shoving down, refusing to deal with, pretending didn't exist. And now they were bubbling up, demanding to be felt. I'll never forget the day she admitted something to me. She said, there's one relationship I can't stop thinking about. I treated him so badly. He didn't deserve it. And I can't believe I pushed him away. And for the first time, she wasn't laughing it off or making excuses. She was sitting in the guilt of how her avoidance had hurt people. And you know what? That was her wake-up call. Not someone leaving her, not someone staying, but the crushing weight of her own avoidance finally catching up to her. Because here's the thing about avoiding your feelings, they don't disappear. They pile up, they live inside your body, and eventually your body says, no more, you're going to deal with this now. That's exactly what happened to her. Years of running finally caught up. And when it did, she had no choice but to stop, face herself, and start healing. Now, let me be honest with you. She's not in a new relationship yet, but she's different. She's committed to therapy. She's learning how to actually feel her feelings instead of shoving them away. She's talking to me about things she never would have opened up about before. And for the first time, I actually believe she's capable of having a healthy, secure relationship when the right person comes along. And I cannot even tell you how proud I am of her because I've been waiting for this shift for years. So what's the lesson in her story? Sometimes the wake-up call isn't external. Sometimes it's not a person leaving you. Sometimes it's not meeting the one. Sometimes it's the weight of your own avoidance crushing you until you can't carry it anymore. Because here's the truth. You can only outrun yourself for so long. At some point, the anxiety, the stress, the repressed emotions, they demand to be felt. And when that happens, you have two choices: shut down completely or finally choose to heal. She chose to heal. And that's why her story is so powerful. So let's pause for a second and tie all of this together. Because I know I just threw 3 big stories at you. And on the surface, they all look different. A player who became a family man, a guy who lost the one, and my best friend who got slammed by her own anxiety. But when you zoom out, a pattern starts to emerge. The first guy, the player, his wake-up call came when he met someone who refused to play his game. She didn't chase him. She didn't enable him. And that forced him to grow up. Then, becoming a dad sealed the deal. His turning point was external life handed him a mirror, and he chose to step into it. The second guy, the one who lost the woman who truly loved him, his wake-up call was regret. He had to lose something irreplaceable before he finally faced himself. His change didn't come because someone saved him. It came because someone refused to tolerate his behavior anymore. Her boundary was the catalyst, and my best friend, her wake-up call wasn't about love at all. It wasn't about another person. It was her own body screaming at her, you can't keep living like this. Her anxiety